It's just kind of the way we start things here. I guess, you ready?
Yeah, I guess. Is
Okay.
that even how I would be?
I know, right? It's always fun to do these podcasts. Hey, everyone, it's Sly47 here. Welcome to another CV podcast episode. Today, I have Steve from Rage joining us to talk about the Manfred von Richthofen. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's good. So we are mostly focusing on the German carriers or kind of battle carriers. I've kind of started calling, especially with the Graf Zeppelin. I've been personally enjoying the Graf Zeppelin, but with these AP bombs, really kind of secondary focus carriers, what draws you to playing this style of CV?
Well, like at first, before when I started grinding it last year, like a lot of people were saying how it was a bad CV, or maybe it was just a niche CV, like it can only CV snipe. So I just wanted to go down and see like what all the discussion was about, really. But then like I was playing it and it had like really good alpha strike. Like in comparison to other carriers, like it's really got consistent alpha strike. You'll probably see this in like some of the videos. Like in the first one, I sent you at like 49 seconds. Like the Yoshino, I did like a huge amount of damage to them. Like in comparison to the other carriers, like they can't do these massive alpha strikes. They're more dependent on the fires and the floods. Compared to the Manfred is more alpha strike, so that's why I like it. It's not ONG based.
That is true. A lot of other CVs, you are basically forced to hope to God RNGesus is going to give you those fires to
Yeah,
really do it, unless you're the Malta and you just print fires.
yeah, pretty much.
But
Yeah,
to oh, sorry, you go. What's up?
no, you're fine, Go ahead.
So for players who are looking to grind this entire line, what is how would you describe the grind? What are the highs? What are the lows? Are there any problematic areas when you are grinding it?
Well, I think did the line in respawn, and I played August a little bit at a respawn, just to see how it was in normal. So that's my first recommendation is probably just do is when the respawn comes around for the tier you're on of the line, try and do as much XP as you possibly can in there, because it does take a really long time if you don't. Um, yeah, I don't really know because I really only played it in respawn, so it's kind of like different play style. But from August, like it was kind of similar to Manfred in that of the Alpha Strike capabilities, and it had decent fighters compared to some of the other tech trees CVs at that tier, because that's the double squadron with three in it, so that was pretty nice. Lows about it, I think I had maybe not enough torpedo bombers. Um, like it would lose its torpedo bombers maybe a decent bit more than I feel like Manfred loses its. And then Wessa, like at tier six, I did this one strictly in respawn. I don't know, like it's kind of weird because it only has three torpedo bombers. Like everything's like the Alpha Strike doesn't really exist this low. Really, you only want to target like battleships and cruisers and carriers. Like destroyers, you just don't do anything because you have no torpedoes yet, and they do little damage. So, I mean, overall, the grind was pretty fine. And I just probably recommend to like do it in respawn as much as possible.
That is true. All of them are on pretty frequent respawn tiers. 6 and 8 tend to cup up
Yeah,
pretty normally. I know for me, the grind was actually really fun. I didn't do a lot in respawn except for the August, just because that grind is so damn long.
yeah, like 608k XP. Like you have to be using boosters the whole time. You better have a good camouflage as well. You're gonna be there for a long time.
Oh yeah, you're in it for the long road there. So I
Yeah,
would say the weather though, like the tier 4 was kind of like that's just you're kind of done quick. It doesn't really matter too much. It
yeah, it's
is
a tier four
kind of fun.
carrier. Yeah,
Yeah. The tier 6 though, that was fun. Like I enjoyed it
yeah,
being, I kind of started to see it was consistent, and that's really why I kept on
yeah,
going on it because you just, you're able to do okay damage overall, but your secondaries, you kind of could just back up your team. And the August,
yeah,
that's where it kind of really became out, where it's like, hey, you could be very aggressive and
Yeah,
help out your team. And also, you're the carrier. You got the shoot me effect. You can
yeah,
have fun with
definitely for
that.
sure.
And in doing so, you can
Um,
really help support your team with those secondaries and your health, and having very short reloads on your planes. Not reloads,
yeah, that
replanes. What's the word for it?
um regenerating. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
A
either.
reload, just reload. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. I think
yeah.
but actually, something I
Rearming.
should have mentioned. Yeah. The secondaries on the deck instead of on the sides. That is something that Wesso and August have that the Manfred doesn't. So that's like a higher thing. Like that's the thing that they're a little bit better at than Manfred. Like you can access the secondaries a bit easier. Like if you're running away from a destroyer, like your secondaries will still be shooting them if you're like stolen in from the destroyer versus like Manfred, you have to give a little bit of broadside in order to get those secondaries off.
I remember hearing that. That was just the
Yeah.
August. You could just sit between two people and just let them all go. You could just have fun.
Yeah.
Manfred, you can't really run away from things unless you're just not wanting to do damage to it. So next up, I asked Mr. Mime this. Definitely, fighters is a big thing, and I know you probably are going to touch on it too because it is very important. But what is the most common mistake you see CV players make in this carrier?
Um. Well, like the way I play it, I always wait for my torpedo bombers to reload because when you send your torpedo bombers out first and then your dive bombers out next, like even though you sent your torpedo bombers out first, your dive bomber still makes it off the deck first because you have so many torpedoes in the torpedo bombers in the squadron that it takes so long. And like this insta stacks it. Like so your planes are already stacked for you. You really don't have to do that much. And then this helps with not losing your planes as much. Because everything's stacked together already. And if you do it right, like when doing your drops, you can have your dive bombers take the large caliber AA and your torpedo bombers take the small caliber so you actually can split the AA to target two different squadrons and then even less planes will be shot down. And that's like one of the biggest problems Manfred players have is they split the squadrons too much. And since you already have weak health in comparison to some of the other carriers, they get deplaned much quicker because they see dive bombers reloaded. So now they think, let's just send them out. And then when they get to their site where they're going to be dropping the bombs, a lot of them will get destroyed. And then the torpedo bombers will be so far behind that the torpedo bombers had nothing tanking for them. Like, so they were just getting all the AA as well. And everything's like by itself. And you just get deplaned much quicker. And that's even how I used to play Manfred until I realized there was a better way to do it for better plane survival.
I didn't know that. Man, I've been
Yeah,
just giving free playing kills to so many people, haven't I? No
yeah.
surprise.
Well, even if you do send your dive bombers out before your torpedo bombers get there, just recall them like really tight together. And I was, if anyone watched the beginner guide, I'm sure you show them the recall button.
Mhm.
Like use recall for like 1 second or a second and a half, and then click back to where the target is, and then since you have three, now you have to recall two at a time for like a second and a half, and then they should all be grouped up, and that'll just help generally with um not losing as much planes. And you don't have to wait for your torpedo bombers like all the time, like especially when you get towards the end of the battle. It's gonna be less AA, and you're gonna be toting ships by themselves. So then you don't even want to send your dive bombers out
Yeah.
first, because then you're actually restricting yourself from getting damage if you don't. So you'll know when if you play it enough. Like, you'll know when to send dive bombs out first.
Yeah, I really can't wait. I'm just completely and utterly broke right now, still with like $30 million, but that's just gonna be enough to retrofit that
Yeah,
one
pretty
ship.
much, pretty much.
Oh, and I got so many other things. Of course, I know you have a lot of experience in other carriers and not just this. What is a common mistake you see other CVs make in general?
I think like just bad target selection or like flying into massively A8 areas when they could have gone for somebody that was more by themselves or there was less AA. And then they just lose all the planes easily. Or another thing that carrier players do is send their planes over ships that are not even going to drop to get someone behind them. And then that's obviously really bad because now they're just shooting your planes down for free. Um, and then what also happens is you go for someone behind. Like now, when your planes are coming out, they're just getting shot by a lot of AA on the way out because you didn't go for the first target, like the closest target. That's kind of what you want to do. You want to go for the closest target to you. Not always, but that's a general rule. Like say as a group, like you want to go for the guy that's in the front of the group, not somebody that's in like the middle, because now you're getting everybody's AA to shoot at you. So that's a pretty big problem, I think. I see a lot of people making.
You're actually going a little bit off script. What do you think of the MVR as a carrier sniper?
Um,
Like sniping carriers
is
off the bat? Do you think that's a valid strategy
yeah.
or
On particular maps is a few really good maps. Actually, the new map that just came out, Okinawa, that's a pretty good map. Because the angle of the spawns, like it might be the same size as the big tier 10 maps, but like the angle, you actually end up being really close. It's like the same thing as Deadlock. So like Deadlock and Okinawa, and these are the maps you could CV snipe on. There's a few other ones, I think, like Hourglass and Crash Zone, and maybe Neighbors as well. But these are like, so that's my general rule of thumb, is only if it's these maps. And then if you CV snipe, like unless you get like 24 or 25k damage on your first strike against the CV, you would have, it's like around 25k to be safe. If you don't get that much, at least that much, then it's not worth it. Don't go for them again because what happens is they're going to end up getting two heals off. And so it's going to waste a ton of your time if you get like 23, 22k. Um, but if you like 25k or more, then they'll only have time for one heal because by the time you make it back, you'll probably finish them off. Um, Hokoyu is definitely the best one to CV snipe because it has the least health by far, like 5k less than all the other carriers. Manfred's probably the worst one to CV snipe because it has DFA. So it's going to take a lot of your planes out, and often people just revenge CV snipe you, so you have to watch out for that. Yeah, but yeah, it's like if you get like 25k or more, then definitely go for him again, and you'll probably end up killing him. If not, your team will be shooting them as well because you should really only go for them on small maps that your team can shoot at them, like some pretty long range battleships like Slava or Black Yamato or something like that. Um,
do that CV
and
sniping
then
meta like PC had a long time ago, where they would have
yeah,
like how what was it in August von Parsifal and actually like two Yamatos or something like that would just eliminate the
yeah,
carrier.
yeah,
Oh, we need to
yeah.
do that
So
more.
you,
That'd be fun.
yeah, you could try it on stream once, like Mad Fight and two Black Montanas or Black Yamatos, like that. And if you get a good map, then it'll be really funny.
That would be.
Yeah. But usually, like a really because most carriers average like let's just say 42k health, 40k to 42k health. So if you get like 25k and then they heal, that's about half the health. So then you're gonna need like another 25k Alpha Strike to end up killing them. But if it's less, don't even bother. Just go for targets that are closer. And also the other problem is like the ships will start coming in front of the CV, and like that's the mistake I was talking about. going over ships to get to a ship behind them. And then obviously you end up losing more planes. So
Yeah.
you have to get them. You have to get them off the bat, or else it's not worth it. Or you start losing too much planes and wasting too much time.
Yeah, or you need to watch out for players like me, where if I'm in my Worcester, I'm like, oh look, they're stream
Hmm.
sniping. I'm an AA barge
Yeah,
now. Let's go.
yeah, or hauling because they can get there quickly, and
Oh
that
yeah.
does happen often. Like,
Yep.
and the other problem is if you don't kill them quickly, like you're only damaging their carrier. Their carrier is damaging your teammates. So if you don't get them out quickly, like now your teammates are doing, it's like you're not even there, pretty much like an AFK CV. Because you're not helping your team really unless you kill them. So if you don't kill them quickly, then it's a big mistake. Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know on that. That's actually a lot of information. I did like just it's one of those things that actually like getting into the nitty gritty and the real practice that carriers require, and especially when you were one that kind of was the first one to really talk about map tactics, like specific map
Mm-hmm.
tactics. I thought
Yeah.
that was so intriguing to be like, oh, actually, yeah, that would be important. I,
Yeah.
someone who's of course not really a CV player, you don't realize that is that at high level you do start talking about that level of effort and level of thought. How?
Oh, like
Oh,
on
sorry,
the
go.
topic of map knowledge, like even map knowledge is good to learn as a surface ship player. Like where certain types of ships spawn, like you need that is something. It's more important for a carrier to learn that. Um, like to know where the destroyers spawn. Like let's say the destroyer, there's like one destroyer, but it's a Holland. You need to know where that spawns so you completely avoid that area. Or if there's one cruiser and it's a Worcester or a Des Moines or something like that, you just need to be aware of where certain ships spawn on different maps. And like a lot of maps are similar. Like it might be different maps, but they have like the same spawns. Like Fault Line, Sea of Fortune, and Loop. They all have the exact same spawns, so there's different maps. So like it's easy to learn the spawns because a lot of the maps are the exact same thing. So and like you can do that at any time. You can do it in your surface ships, or you can do it in your carriers. But map knowledge and knowing like where people spawn is really important because you know what ships to avoid at the start if you are aware of where they spawn.
No one can see my face right now, but I'm over here just being like, God, I'm like 12K battles in, and I don't even know spawns really. I'm just like, wow, yeah, that. Wow, maybe I should actually learn that. Jeez, I'm a scrub here.
Yeah,
um,
I could get into that, but it would take a while. So,
yeah, and
yeah,
we don't have all day.
yeah, we don't have all day.
No. So, I've unfortunately actually in the past put the MVR in a probably a harsh point and island of misfit toys and like that. How would you rank the MVR against the other CVs if you had to kind of go from best to worst?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much the same thing Mr. Mime said. It is like Malta, especially for less good CV players, is top. Hokoyu is going to be second. Um, and then this is really hard. Midway versus Manfred is if you like ONG, and you want less squadrons to deal with, which this is not me. I don't like that. Then Midway's probably better for you. But if you want more harder gameplay, like Manfred with more squadrons, then Manfred's better. Probably Midway is above Manfred though, if we're talking like average player. Um, and then I would rank Manfred over Nakimov, I think, because that has like, if there's any AA on the enemy team, like you're gonna have a really hard time. Versus Manfred, you can kind of deal with it.
Yeah, they're not completely paper mache. In my time with the
Yeah,
Nakimov, I did feel like I was like, man, I definitely need that hanger mod. You will get deplaned
yeah,
quickly. That is rough on that one. And actually good to know because of course Nakimov just actually recently came out.
yeah.
So for those players, I've heard the tier 8 is really bad. So some people are
Mm.
wailing in order to skip that.
Yeah, yeah. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, the potato. We don't talk about that one. Nope, not at all. Now I actually updated this right before we actually started, everyone. So if you could buff one thing, what would it be? And I immediately removed manual secondaries because I would absolutely love that, and I don't think anyone else who has played this line doesn't want that as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, like everything is pretty good, except like it does have slightly less plain health. It already has the second best fighters, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I did that math, and it was the second best fighter, so it doesn't need a buff there. Um, yeah, it just has to be plain health, I guess. Like, I don't know, like 200 HP more per plane. Or a small buff would just be like 100 HP more. But obviously, like, yeah, secondaries. Like, I would take that over plain health any day.
Oh yeah, no, the black Graf Zeppelin, I got that, and I'm just like, oh, this thing is just so much fun, and
Yeah.
it, God, it's so weird to say that as a player who absolutely hates TVs, really. um,
Yeah.
Now let's actually talk about ship selection. You kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but what are the harder ships that you have to deal with when playing the MVR?
I mean, obviously, there's just the common AA ships. And AA battleships like Vermont aren't super hard to deal with because you can just stack your fighters. And you can do the drops super quickly and easily because it's impossible for them to dodge a really fast ship. They move slow. But like dealing with Worcesters or Des Moines, like they can play with the throttle and you can do the same thing where you stack your fighters first and have them tank. But that's only gonna last you like 1 second. And so you pretty much have 1 second to drop your torpedoes. But if they like do some good movements and like throw you off, then you have to realign your torpedoes, and that kind of messes you over. Um, so realistically, any cruiser that's got decent maneuverability with like pretty solid AA is pretty problematic if they know how to dodge. If they're just sailing in a straight line, it's still fine.
Yeah,
But
even I can hit them
yeah,
at that point. That's just sad.
yeah, 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 yeah. But like cruisers with, because even if the cruisers are this thin as well, then your bombs have trouble hitting, and that's no skill. So that's a big problem. Um, but it is good against cruisers because you do citadel them pretty good. It's just the problem with torpedo bombers because they're such widespread. Um, that you can easily miss like 4 or 3 torpedoes, which is that's a pretty good amount of damage.
Especially with how
But
wide those torpedoes are. They really are a
yeah,
chunkable spread there.
realistically, you would think because of how the torpedo bomber squadron is that they drop like 4 and then 3. Because you know how the torpedo bomber squadron looks, right? It's not 7 in a row. It's 4 and then 3 behind it. So it's kind of weird, but I'm not going to complain about that.
Now, I do know there's a bit of fighter baiting sometimes with AA. Would you suggest that when handling the most problematic ships for the MVR?
Yeah, like you'll see me in these videos do it multiple times against the Vermont. Like 238 in that first video. I used the fighters to tank the AA damage. That's a necessary thing. Like I even still lost a squadron, even though I tanked with AA. That's how good Vermont's AA is. And like you'll see in the second video, I tried it at 244. But right as I was about to do it, the enemy CV like accidentally baited my fighters before I clicked. So you'll see me like try and do it like often because you have like a bunch of fighters. I'm pretty sure like 18, I think, or 21. I don't remember, but you have a lot of them to use. Like at the end of the game, you should have probably around less fighters than torpedo bombers and dive bombers. Like you should have maybe like 6 in the AO and maybe 3 in your hangar probably at the end of the game. Or you could have none. But that's probably not good. If you had none, you probably either got baited too much or overused them to bait someone's AA. You need fighters at the end to like bait the enemy's fighters away, so you can't use them all up. But you should every time you go for a heavily AA ship, like Vermont or Worcester, Des Moines, anything
Oh,
heavily AA.
Ragnar. Yeah, there's plenty of them.
Yeah. You can even use it against, like, say there's 3 ships left, the carrier's dead. Like, at this point, use your fighters every time you do a drop. That's actually something I should mention. If the carrier's dead, just use your fighters up. Like, there's no reason to, like, have them. Like, even if you go for, like, a Kremlin or something, just use the fighters. Like, there's no reason not to. But if the enemy CV's alive, obviously you need the fighters to, like, protect your teammates, and bait the fighters away. So, yeah.
Yeah, Kremlin actually has surprisingly good AA. I enjoy mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But anything that doesn't have DFA, like, realistically, it's not a threat by itself.
really. All right. Now this is one thing that I absolutely love about this line, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But of course, there is an art to it, and trust me, there have been plenty of times where I've pushed too far and died very early. If is there any word of wisdom you could give to people who are playing this line of when and how to push in the CV line?
Okay, well, like, in the videos, obviously, you're gonna see every time at this very store, like, before I launch my planes, like, it might be hard to see because it's so fast. Like, I'm already started moving. But for beginners, obviously, that's way too, or even, like, just average CV players, like, that's too advanced probably for you to do. Because you'll probably, like, end up forgetting that your CV's going forward. So, like, I would recommend to start pushing, like, after you've done your first drop. Um, Especially if it takes you a while to do your first drop. Maybe you had to avoid an AA ship and you had to go to the other side, and then they try to dodge you, and then, like, now your CV's been driving forward for a long time. You could almost be at the middle at this point. Especially in, like, things like epicenter, where you want to push up to the outer cap. Um, so just if you aren't comfortable and you think you're gonna forget that your CV's moving forward, well, just wait until after your first drop, and then when your planes are coming back to you, and then you have like 20 seconds for them to come back, and then like 20 seconds for them to reload. So you have like 40 seconds to move your CV around, and get it in a good position. If we're talking like epicenter, like, you just want to move up to the outer ring, most likely. Like, I tend to push aside a little bit, but I'm still like in the outer ring. I don't go like anything crazy. If we're talking like base capture maps, like, you kind of just want to push aside. Um, I get it. I don't really care if my team push that side heavily or not. But if you want to be more safe, like, if you're not confident, like, in your skills yet, just push the side that has most of your teammates going on it. That way you're safe and you don't, like, end up overextending yourself and, like, getting killed by a destroyer or something. But, like, once you get better, you should be able to push to a side like that only has like 3 of your teammates or 2 of them, and be able to, like, help that whole side win the game, even against like 3 or 4 teammates.
Oh yeah, that's one thing that I definitely do in the Graf Zeppelin is I'm backing up a team because of course about like five I'd say, but actually never mind, about 3-4 minutes into the game, your teammates are getting whittled down. They're starting to probably
Hmm.
drop, and especially if you
Yeah,
play with a team, you could just come right in there and you might be behind them, but once again you have that shoot me CV effect that people just
yeah,
focus you, and now all of a sudden your health becomes their health and you're able to win the fight. And I've even had games where I've done more damage via my secondaries than actually my prime than my bombers and everything, just because I have bad bomber
yeah,
drops and stuff like that. But
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like, even like if we're talking about the premiums like Black Graph and normal graph, like, you can, with your planes, like, there's some cruisers you can almost outbrawl them. And even battleships, like, you can go crazy in that one. And Manfred, you have to be more careful because your secondaries only do like 100 damage per hit. So it's not too crazy. Um,
I think the funnier one
but yeah,
is I've done this is I've hidden like right next to Romas in my August. So basically, I give them the issue of people trying to target them. because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sitting like a half click away, but anything gets close, all of a sudden now they have the Roma shooting them, and they have my secondary shooting them, and
yeah,
it's hilarious to watch them try.
yeah. Like um, sitting next to your teammates is good for them because you have a skill. You have DFA, and you have Hydra. So like you can help spot. Like let's say it's you and one battleship now. You completely protected this battleship from the enemy carrier because combined with your fighters and AA, like nothing's gonna get through. Or if it does, it's gonna be dead. And then like you have a sonar to help spot torpedoes from a further distance, which is a pretty useful skill.
Oh yeah.
And you can also be spotting around in that area. Kind of like I like I don't go for destroyers in Manfred, but I'll just keep them spotted for my team because it's really bad for you to go for destroyers in Manfred. It's not efficient whatsoever. If you want to go for destroyers, just go for the Hakoyu line. Like that's pretty much what you need to do. But like 130 on the first video, I'd send fighters to make sure to keep that DD spotted over there. And the same thing with 114 in the second video. Like I just keep fighters around where I know the DD is for multiple reasons. Like I don't want him sneaking up on me because I don't have a great defense against him. I need like insane ONG, like my bombs to not overpin them and to hit. To be able to take them out for myself.
See, I've used actually, I've tried to help with using my torpedo bombers because, of course, the AP bombs just typically aren't going to help at all
Yeah,
and
like they
such. So I
yeah,
just
they
use my
often
tor bombers. That's it.
yeah, that's fine, but realistically you want that's what you want to keep like that was the kind of thing I was talking about earlier, like keeping everything together versus if you split your torpedo bombers off to
True.
go for something else, now your dive bombers are isolated. But like if a DD's like one force house, like you send all your dive bombers after it and your torpedo bombers, then it's worth it to take that DD out and kill him because you don't want to come back later in the match. So like don't never go for a DD, but like if there's like a full health DD and none of your teammates are shooting at it, just keep them spotted because you're not gonna end up doing anything to them, but just keep them spotted and maybe one of your teammates will think about trying to scale them off.
That is true. That is true. And keeping DDs or killing DDs is incredibly important to winning games many times over.
Yeah, because they can always come back at the end and like you can have a half health down with and they can just in the last 10 seconds one shot them with all their torpedoes. So they have that, or they can sneak up behind your base. But this is like a battleship's not going to really make it to your base like that. So that's the main reason to keep them spotted.
Is there anything else you'd like to kind of talk about before I kind of get into the last little meta question that I have on the MBR?
Um, Fourth Omen has to be coming out in the next
Oh
update because
God,
everything else will
Red
be.
got to you. Red got to you. Okay, fine. We're skipping over. You lost your chance on saying anything. Okay, what is your take that carriers are broken or overpowered?
Okay. Okay, Manfred can't be like realistically like the ability. You don't have the ability to set fires except for secondaries. And obviously, that's not super useful. So I think Manfred's balanced. Obviously, Malta's not balanced even still. Like it is just so OP. Like you got you you have so many bombs. Like you're guaranteed bomb hits, and you're gonna get fires, and then like you can easily just get palmer fires because you have a small reload. Well, you don't have a small reload. You have small squadrons, so they reload quicker. So it's easier to get palmer fires. But I guess if both CVs are really good, I don't necessarily think they're OP because then at that point it kind of relies more on your team. Um, but I'm trying to think. I don't. In random battles, I suppose they are pretty broken because they can do everything for themselves except kind of defend themselves in close quarters. Um, but yeah, they can spot. They can be really annoying. Like you could be a destroyer and the CV could be like 40 kilometers away, Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but
Yeah, we get it.
he could be super. Yeah, he could be like 20 kilometers away, and you could be like just out of the detection of like a cruiser behind you, and then he comes to spot you, and then you're done. Versus like no other ship could do that.
Yeah,
So that is pretty broken, and like it can just start doing damage way before any other ship in the game. Like off the bat, it's already doing damage. Like in the first 50 seconds, compared to everything else, has to wait like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, depending on what your range is on your thing. So yeah, it can be foaming from the start of the battle all the way to the end, and that is pretty OP. Compared to everything else, has to wait a bit. Um, yeah, like you have a whole view of the whole map. Like you can see where anyone's damage controlled at any point. You can see everyone's health at any point. Like, say you're on a battleship and you have 16 kilometers. If someone's like at 20 kilometers, you can't see if the how much health they have. But in a carrier, you can see health that from any range and know exactly what ships to target, who's damage control to who's low, um, to who your team's focusing. Like you can just see everything. You're like the all-seeing eye. Like that's a lot of power.
yeah,
Um, so they were pretty broken just for like the amount of fires and floods they can put out and force damage controls, except for Manfred because even Nakimov, I'd say, is kind of. I mean, it's still a carrier, even though it might have like pretty weak health.
and then
Like
it's
it's still
got
gonna
it's
be able
got
to,
Smolensk guns on the side. Like it is
yeah.
dangerous still at close range.
Like it's got 15 torpedoes. Like they have flood chance. I mean, 15 torpedoes, even if they had like 8% flood chance, like that's a lot of flood chance. Like they pretty much guarantee the flood every drop. I actually don't know what the flood chances are. I'm gonna have to look at that after. So like it still can prevent fires and floods, which is just really harmful, obviously to you, because now let's just say there's HE spammers on an enemy team. Now you're just gonna be on home of fires. Or if the HE spammers got you on a fire, now the CV just comes over and insta double fire and a flood, and you're in a really bad position.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's also another thing I should mention. Like, let's say you peeled back and there's no ships around you, but the CV saw you were low, like you're done now. Like he's just gonna come round everybody and finish you off. Versus like a battleship couldn't finish you off because you just got out of its range. So yeah, just having infinite range, like that's pretty OP.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was really nice talking about the MVR because I do believe it does feel like that balance thing because it doesn't cause those fires unless you're in there. Floods, kind of are rarer, I'd say, so it's not as
yeah.
broken.
Like
And
a 3 per battle would be an average 2-3. 4 is like you got some pretty good RNG, but like 3 is probably like the average, so that's nothing crazy.
that's true. All right. Well,
Like,
anything
or
other?
yeah,
Oh, sorry. You go.
like so I was gonna say permanent floods. Like that's I don't get those often in Manfred. Like normally I'm the one causing the damage control. My teammates can capitalize on it. Versus like me getting the perma flood is pretty rare. Because you need good RNG and for them to have used that damage control. Because you can't like send your bombers in like midway and get the fire, and then hold your torpedo bombers. Um, and then yeah, get the flood. Like you can only set flood, so that's a bit of an inconvenience. That is why I said it is balanced compared to the other carriers.
After grinding it, it feels balanced because I never felt
Yeah.
like I was this force of nature. I felt like I was,
Hmm.
additive damage, but then of course I could be
Yeah.
aggressive, so I was a part of the team. Whereas I've played Malta many times, and I played the Midway. I still can't. I can remember that actually. If I didn't have the previous player on my press account, I'd have 100k Midway average, and that's
Yeah.
sad for a player who doesn't know how to use
Yeah.
CVs at all.
Yeah, like CVs are OP against bots as well, like because they can't damage control. So even Manfred's kind of balanced against bots because you can't even get floods half the time. So you're just doing base alpha damage versus other carriers like they said like 3 fires and that's 30% of the bot's HP. So that's another thing. That's another reason why Manfred's is kind of balanced in that sense as well.
All right. Well, anything other than Forrest Sherman when? See, Red put you up to
No,
that.
no, they're just a friend, just a friend.
No. Hi, everyone. Hopefully, you have learned a good bit from this, and let us know if you're going down the MVR grind. We know it's a long one. We both have done
Yeah,
it.
that's for sure.
I think he's got a good idea on this of doing it in respawn. It's a great idea on both sides. But thank you, Steve, for joining me and talking to the MVR with us.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help support the channel. Let me know if there's any other subjects you'd like to cover in a format like this or how I could improve it. And hopefully y'all enjoyed today's podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.
Torpedobomberstaffel in der Luft. Sturzkampfbomberstaffel fliegen aus. Gegnerische Torpedos gesichtet. Gegnerische Flugzeuge kommen. Ziel angreifen. Jägerstaffel starten. Sturzkampfbomberstaffel fliegen aus. Sturzkampfbomberstaffel starten. Torpedobomberstaffel in der Luft. Unser Team eroberte den Bereich. Gegnerische Flugzeuge kommen. Ziel penetriert. Gegnerische Schiff zerstört. Jägerstaffel fliegen auf. Unser Team eroberte den Bereich. Torpedobomberstaffel starten. Sturzkampfbomberstaffel in der Luft. Sturzkampfbomberstaffel fliegen aus. Gegnerteam gewinnt. Torpedos! Ziel angreifen. Ziel penetriert.